Hey everybody, and thank you for taking the time to watch this short video on the differences between self-publishing, assisted publishing and traditional publishing. Let's get cracking. First, let's look at who is a traditional publisher. Here's some of the top publishing houses in the world: Macmillan, Penguin, Simon & Schuster, Hachette, Allen & Unwin from Australia, Random House, which is now a subsidiary of Penguin, and these are just a few. Okay, there are heaps of traditional publishing houses out there. These are the top ones. So how do they work? What do they actually want? Well, they're going to need you to submit a manuscript to them, usually through an agent, to be reviewed, to be read, to give you the yay or the nay, whether or not they're going to take your manuscript on. Now, if you don't go through an agent, it's going to get tough. And there's actually one of 4 potential options that you have here. You may hear nothing back. And again, if you haven't gone through an agent, there is a high chance of that happening. You may get a nay, which is at the moment an above average chance. The main reason that is because the industry at the moment is very, very tight. The publishing houses need to make sure that the manuscripts they take on are top quality, topical, and are actually going to have a good prediction of sales. After all, they are running a business. They could come back to you and give you some awesome feedback, some constructive feedback. And if that happens, you may even be told, hey, look, if you address this stuff, you can resubmit the manuscript to have another review, and potentially you'll get that 4th response, which is a yay. Love your concept, love the story, let's get cracking. Again, you've got a higher chance of response if you go through a literary agent, but they do cost. Okay, let's have a look at self-publishing, and it is exactly what it sounds, self. You are literally doing it yourself. Now, usually you'll go through a self-publishing company that may offer a range of services. Now, that could be anything from title registration to design and print, and you may have additional costs if you want to take on other services. You don't have to lock in every part of the process with one company. You could choose to do your cover design with one company and have your editing done by, say, a solo contractor. It's totally up to you. That's the point. The one thing I will tell you about self-publishing houses is that they offer no tangible marketing support. They may give you advice, they may give you handouts, they may give you links to other marketing resources, but they will not walk that walk with you, okay? There's nothing tailored to you and your book from self-publishing houses. Now, there's no guarantee that the actual editing, design or production of the book will be up to trade standard. Now, if you've never published a book before, how do you know what industry standards are? The one thing I need to say at this point is that just because you have published a book or you've written a book does not mean that you have the expertise to be a publisher, okay? And there are a lot of self-publishing houses out there where that is the case. So trade standard is something that they may not know about either. So it's very, very important for the quality of your publication that you do have an industry standard book. So you definitely want to check that out. Now let's look at assisted independent publishing. How does this work? Well, it is guided by industry professionals. Generally speaking, everybody that works in the assisted indie space has had a strong background, a lot of experience in traditional publishing. In most cases, the publishing house will be quite definitive about things like design. For example, the style and formatting, the cover and the fonts, they will be quite specific. However, you as the author will always have final say. As an example, if you do say to the publishing house that you want to use Comic Sans as the font for your title on the front cover, chances are the publisher will come back and say, look, that's not an industry standard font, not a good idea, we would not want to do that. And they'll have a bit of a discussion with you about it and explain why it wouldn't work. Now, the assisted indie publishers only produce trade standard publications, okay? And the reason that is that they're usually going to buy into that marketing journey with you as an author, okay? So they're going to walk the walk, and it's very important that they can stand by that product as proudly as you do. Everything in the publishing process is managed through that company. So from title registration right through to book printing, every part of it is managed in the one place. The assistance really comes into play with marketing and distribution support. And there's also the add-ons of ebooks, print on demand, audio, website development, video marketing, launches and signings, and a lot more. So as you can see, it is a comprehensive process. Alright, the next step is to look at royalty rates. So let's look at the three again: self-assisted and traditional. And in this example, we have a $20 book. It's retailing for $20. And we'll look at the self-publishing row first. If a bookseller takes your book on, they're going to want to make some money out of it. And usually they're going to ask around 40%. Now, some may be higher, some may be lower, but that is the average. If that happens, the author will get $12. That is the bottom line for the author when a book is sold through a bookseller. But if you are selling direct, you get the full retail price back in your pocket. You obviously need to take out the costs of self-publishing. However, you're going to make more money selling direct. In assisted publishing, same scenario, $20 book, selling to booksellers, 40%. The one aspect that's different here is that most assisted independent publishers have a distribution network. Now in our case, we collect 15% through every book that we sell, okay? So that's us marketing your book on your behalf. And naturally, you would expect there'd be a clip on the ticket there. So the bottom line, $9 is what the author walks away from if a book is sold through the independent publisher. But still, you have the $20 direct sale coming right back into your pocket. Now let's look at traditional publishing. You have that $20 retail price. Again, the bookseller will have 40%. The distributors that the traditional publishers use are big business. They've got hundreds if not thousands of titles, and they make money from distributing books. So they have a larger piece of the pie. The publisher has fronted all the money, so it's important they make a clip as well, and usually, as a guide, it's around the 20% mark. So you as the author will have a bottom line of $2 per copy sold through the publishing house. You do still have the ability to sell books directly, but you will need to buy them from the publisher. And in most cases, they will sell you the book for half the retail price. So in this case, you'd actually be buying copies off the publisher for $10 a pop. So as you can see, the highest royalty rate is with self-publishing. That doesn't mean you cannot sell direct and still do well in assisted publishing as well. The next one is control, a very, very important aspect in my mind, which is how the author decides which way the book is going to go. Now, in self-publishing, total author control. As I've mentioned before, there is no guarantee of professional editors or designers having an industry standard publication, but you have complete final say on everything and you reap all the profit from sales. It's the one with the lowest investment. Self-publishing is your lowest investment. In assisted publishing, it is a shared process. You are using accredited editors, professional industry standard designers. Quality book production is of utmost importance, and most assisted independent publishers will only use a specialist book printer. Not a printer that can just run off books, but somebody that is doing it for a living. Very important that you get quality production. For example, in some cases with self-publishing, you may find that your cover cello or laminate is peeling off after some time, or pages may fall out. You may find that pagination is not centered. So if you hold your book up to the light and look at the page numbers, you will see that they're out. And these things are what our book printers make sure are 100% before the run is done. The author again reaps all the profit from the sales, but you will likely have to make a higher investment in the publishing process because of that quality control. In traditional publishing, the publisher has full control over everything. They've got the war machine working for them. They will make the final call on the editorial, the design, how many copies are printed, and of course the ebook and audio are in their hands as well. The one element that they do want you involved in is in marketing. Very, very important. They will have the media and the signings and potential speaking opportunities sorted for you, but all your online engagement, your social media, your book tours, your website, your video marketing, all of those modules would need to be implemented by you, and you will have to contract that independently. Okay, most traditional publishers do not offer digital marketing services. Finally, let's have a look at destiny. The destiny of the book is the biggest thing. In my mind, I believe that publishing a book is one of the greatest forms of creative expression, and you are establishing a part of your legacy by publishing. So the destiny of the book is very important. Both in self and assisted independent publishing, you will find that the author controls the destiny. The rights of the work remain with you, all future work is in your hands, the life of the book is up to you, plus your voice should never change, and that is also in your hands. With traditional publishing, the rights are with them. Any future work, they will have first right of refusal, and that would mean that that may not even get published, but they will need to see it first. You cannot just bring it out into the world if you're already under contract. The life of the book is usually 6 to 9 months unless it becomes part of the 1% group, and that's when it goes gangbusters. And naturally, they're going to continue marketing it if it's doing well. Your voice can change with the publisher. It all depends on the editors that are being used. They may reword your complete manuscript and it will not sound like you anymore. That's a call that you have to make on whether you're happy with that. However, the publisher owns the rights. They will make final decision. So let's recap. Why should you look at traditional publishing? Well, it does have that war machine of marketing behind you. There are no upfront costs. The publishers wear everything, and if you do make part of the 1% group where you are very successful, it can be very lucrative. Why self-publishing? It's the lowest investment, and that's the bottom line. I believe that's the only reason you want to consider self-publishing is because of the lower costs. Why assisted publishing? Simple. There is a higher royalty rate. You have marketing and professional support, which is absolutely critical. You still own all the rights, you control the destiny. The biggest thing here is the marketing and professional industry knowledge and support. Let's have a look at some success stories. Here's a couple of independently published books. Still Alice was published in 2007, won an award a year later. One of the top fives picked them up a year later again for $500,000. She had already built that success, so she could dictate a high price. Bestseller for 40 weeks and an award-winning movie produced. The Memory Box, independently published in 2014, won an award that year, has been number 1 on Amazon, iTunes and Barnes & Noble, and a bestseller for 40 weeks on the USA Today list. Some great stories there of independently published books doing well. Now let's have a look at the self-published books. Peter Rabbit, a timeless tale that was self-published in 1901 with only 250 copies printed. But put that in context with today's time, that could be 2,500 or even 25,000 books being printed. A year later, it was picked up by a traditional publishing house, and to date, 200 million copies have sold in over 35 languages. We've all seen the films, the TV adaptations. It is one of the most successful self-published books ever brought to life. The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. Absolutely love this book, and he self-published in 1993 and sold 100,000 copies out of the boot of his car. He was a New York Times bestseller for 165 weeks, 23 million copies sold to date, and there's been a feature film produced as well, along with many, many other books to follow on from this one. If you haven't seen the film, that's not a bad thing. You should read the book because the film's not that good. Now, do you know what is the most successful publication out there that began its journey as a self-published book? I know that when you see it, you're going to say, wow, that's one of the greatest forms of literature ever published. Well, there it is, everyone. 50 Shades of Grey, E.L. James. That's right, she was originally self-published in 2011 in Australia as an ebook. A year later, Vintage Books picked her up. She has since outsold J.K. Rowling on Amazon.uk. 125 million copies sold in over 52 languages, and we all know there's been films and further books. Now, despite the negativity that E.L. James has gained by 50 Shades of Grey about her writing, she's the one walking to her private jet drinking champagne saying, well, thanks for that. You cannot dismiss the success that she has created, and I tip my hat to her. Well done. So there it is, guys. There are the differences between self-assisted independent and traditional publishing. So we're an assisted independent publishing house, which means we bring that knowledge and experience to the table during the publishing process. We're on board with the marketing and promotion of the book, including a tailored marketing mentorship that will be absolutely vital for the success of your book. We look at pre-sales, audiobooks, ebooks, website design. The list is endless. So when you're looking at the publishing house you're wanting to go with, no matter what part of the industry they're in, self-assisted or in traditional, do your due diligence, do your research, check them out, make sure that they have a great reputation and they've built some success behind them. The one piece of advice I can end this with is if they do not ask you the following question, I would think twice. What is your vision? Be creative, be inspired, be published.